はい、今日はワールドシネマコンファレンスにご来場いただきましてありがとうございます。これ基本的に英語で全部やりますので、必要な方はこれヘッドセットかなんかある。
Welcome to the World Cinema
必要
Conference.
な方のヘッドセットでの同時通訳が
We have simultaneous interpretation. However, the session will actually is in English.
World Cinema Conference.
Will take place in
English. Yes, so this is the first time so we do this conference. So this year, it's very difficult to invite the foreign guests, but and finally, so we could invite these very important people in the film industries and to attend this meeting. So I'm very happy, and we are very thankful to for them to come to Tokyo in this very restricted condition. And so today, so there are several topics, and we would like to discuss. And the most first topic is about film festivals and under COVID-19 pandemic, or maybe bbeyond the COVID-19 pandemic. And in these 2 years, all of the, not only the film festivals, but especially the film festivals suffered very much with the pandemic of COVID. And last year in Berlin, I was attending, because Carlo invited me as one of the jury members. But at other times, at first nothing happened. It's in the February last year. So in the beginning, nothing happened. But gradually, that COVID-19 tried to spread, and first some Italy, and so they started lockdown, and in Japan also. That every day I hear the very bad news that all of the schools must be closed. So but anyway, the Berlin Festival last year was the last, probably it's the last big film festival which which was organized at a very normal. But after the Berlin Film Festival, COVID-19 and started spread, and so some festivals canceled, and some festivals did it, but not the normal way. And in Tokyo Film Festival, speaking about our film festival, Tokyo Film Festival, last year. Yeah, we are very lucky because in summer it was very hard, but in October the number of the patients started decreased, and just before the film festival, it's the middle of the we are in the end of October, and middle of October, and all of the cinemas can use 100% seats. So last year, luckily, we could do the physical film festival. But the problem is last year, we couldn't invite foreign guests. And so that's one of the reasons, that's the main reason that we canceled the main competition, because we couldn't organize the international jury members. So last year, we didn't have the competition. We just show the films, all of the films out of competition, just the audiences award. And this year, yes, we are lucky again. We saw that the number of the patients very decreased dramatically. Then so we can use 100% seats. But we asked the Japanese government, because we like to invite very limited guests. So then yes, and it's very it's not easy. So we must send many documents. But finally, so we could invite like 7 people from abroad. And so the situation is changed. But in these 2 years, we at least we could physical film festivals. And yes, and so maybe first I would like to introduce each panelist. And then maybe we should ask the questions. How that each festival did last year or this year? And so first person is Mr. Frédéric Boyer. So Frédéric Boyer is he's a former programmer of the Director's Fortnight in Cannes, but and he became the it's a festival director or artistic director. Artistic director of the Tribeca Film Festival. Tribeca Film Festival is a big film festival in New York, and which is held usually in April or March. Oh, now June. Oh, okay, now June. So last year it was supposed to be the April. Yeah, and it's a very big film festival. Unfortunately, I never been there, so some of my films are shown, but and I couldn't have a chance to visit. But it's a very film festival and founded by the Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese, and so many films are shown. And so probably so your film festival is the first film festival which which were held just after the COVID. So maybe so, I will ask you your experience. Speak about your experience, please. Oh,
yes, yes, it's yes. The date last year was in June and not in April, and we're gonna stay also in June. So the year before we almost canceled. We didn't play so many films we were not able to play. So we also invited films which were selected the year before in 2021.
I see.
So we try to select less film because we were playing everything outside on big screen.
I see.
It was a big organization.
Yeah.
And using New York as a playground, using the city as a venue.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, and last year I think that you did a remote film festival. No, you did a festival, but in a remote way. No. Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that the Japanese film I mostly won the prize.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So at that time you did do the festival, but how did you organize the festival last year?
Yes, but last year it was really difficult for me because I programmed the film, but when the COVID appears, I was in France and I was not able to come to Tribeca.
Yeah.
So we have also some issue because we didn't, even the jury was difficult to bring foreign juries.
Yeah.
And some filmmakers, they really wanted to go.
Yeah.
And so they spent 2 weeks in Mexico City. And then they were able to go. So it's a lot of organization.
Yeah.
But many decided to be there and to celebrate the world premiere of their film.
I see. Okay. And another thing I would like to ask you that I think you, Tribeca, organized One World Film Festival last year, which is a kind of a remote film festival. So.
Yes, it was very spontaneous. We decided to ask, in the beginning the idea it was 10 film festival, but it was more than 20, 21, 22 film festival, include Cannes, Thierry Frémaux accepted, and also Carlo, Rotterdam, Macau, Lorna. And then each festival was able to play online 5 hours of exclusivity, but also panels, talks. ANSI was really also participating, bringing animation. Yeah. So it was a lot of organization. It was all time. It was extremely successful, especially for people who are submitting filmmakers to say, okay, festivals are not dead, and we are part of a community. Yeah.
Actually, Tokyo Film Festival also participated.
Yes,
of course. Some films by the Koji
World
Fukada.
Premiere. Yes.
World premiere.
It was a world premiere.
Yes,
it was. Thank you so much. It was really great.
Yeah, and I remember that I watched the Uganda's film. Uganda. I think it was submitted by the Toronto. So,
yes, exactly.
Crazy World. So we very enjoy film. Yes.
No, it was fun.
Yeah, I remember I watched it last year. Yes.
But at this time, nobody knows what to watch. People didn't wanted to watch a platform on Netflix, but people were addicted to film, addicted to festivals, and we wanted to know what's happening in the world. So the reason why everybody was able to participate was a good idea.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. So next is Mr. Christian Jun. So and he's at head of the cinema department of the Cannes Film Festival a long time. And actually, I met Christian in 1995. So when I presented the Ho Xiaoshen's Good Men, Good Women in Cannes. and he's still working. So already it's a long time. So then he came to Japan many times and to look for the films for the next year. So so thank you very much for coming here again. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, so I would like to speak about the Cannes Film Festival. This year, Cannes was held physically, so but not in May, but in July. And unfortunately, I couldn't go there. So physical festival held this year. But the last year, it's a very unique things Cannes did. So it's a label Cannes 2020. So please tell us about this label.
Yeah, well, in 2020, when the world went into lockdown, it was March, April, which are the 2 months where Cannes is watching the film and selecting them for the festival to happen in May. So we were in a very strange situation because we didn't know for a long time, like everybody in the world, how long will it last? Will we be able to organize a physical edition of the festival? And by the end of April, we knew that we had to cancel it or postpone it. But even to postpone it was so uncertain because legislation, situation was changing, there was an evolution. So we decided we had to cancel it. But as we had seen the film, we had done the work. I mean, we watched as many films as usual, and some films could wait for the following year, but most of them couldn't. So we decided to create this Cannes 2020 label, and to let the films go wherever they wanted to go, and to be released with a selection label. And for the one who accepted it, and many were eager to have this label, and so we were happy because at the end we did something. Of course, it was very frustrating not to have a physical edition.
Yeah.
This year, again, there was a rebound of the epidemic at the beginning of the year, but it was, we were not talking about lockdown, we were talking about curfew, and we were talking about restrictions with movie theaters, which is what it is about. So we took the safer time, which was July. Of course, it was a bet, but we had to, and actually it worked. So we did for the first time Cannes in May, and it did went well. Of course, less people would come, especially from some part of the world, especially Asia or South America. And even America. It was very difficult because each country had different legislation, and for France, not like everywhere. It was different from each country to come.
Yes, and I never visited Cannes in July, but probably I think in July it's already a vacant season. So do you have any problem or not?
Yeah, at the beginning we thought we would have problems. I mean, in May, in Cannes, we can say that the city belongs to the festival. I mean, you have always all the people going to the movies, and at night, all the people in tuxedos and dressing gowns. So there is this ambiance. In July, of course, half of the people there, the population was, they were on holidays. But again, for the holidays, people, it was less than usual because it was only the French people, were there. We didn't have so many foreigners also traveling as holidays. So at the end, yes, it was funny if you take a picture to have seen people with tuxedo walking with people in flip-flop and short pants. But except that, it did well. It went well, actually.
Okay. So I'd like to ask add some information on that Cannes 2020. And I think 2 Japanese films selected. One is Naomi Kawase's True Mothers, and another one is Koji Fukada's, I forgot the English title, sorry. It's Honchi no Shirushi is a Japanese title. It's a very long films, but very, very interesting films. And one thing I think it's very good is even if that the film was labeled Cannes 2020, the film can still be presented at other film festivals.
Yeah, that was the idea, because there was no physical presentation of the film, and a label could have been Berlin, could have been Venice, it was Cannes.
Yeah.
It's still a big promotion incentive for the film. So it becomes a brand, and it was that. Then we couldn't say to the film not to go to festival, and I think it was also a nice way, as Tribeca did, to include all festivals together.
Yes. And so this is the information for the audiences. In Tokyo Film Festival last year, the Kamen Kalef's film April it's one of the Cannes 2020. It's a Bulgarian film which Tokyo Film Festival last year. And I was a program director of Tokyo Filmex last year, and we selected Nora Marutirosyan's film Should the Wind Blow, which is an Armenian-French co-production. And I think that Cannes 2020 films is spreading to so many film festivals, I think.
Yeah, and many went to San Sebastian, because time-wise, it was quite, it made sense. It was quite. We were surprised, because nobody knew how it was going to work, you know.
Yes.
And so that was a pleasure to see the films traveling in other festivals also, because presentation of a film in a festival is always something different than just a release in a theatrical movie. It helps it a lot.
Yes. Yeah, in San Sebastian, Naomi Kawase's film, True Mothers, selected in main competition. And also that its big winner in San Sebastian is a Georgian film called Beginnings. And it's not shown in Japan, so there are no Japanese titles. So it won the best picture, best scriptwriter, or maybe 3 or 4 hours, and dominated in the San Sebastian Festival.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so next maybe we move to Carlo. So and Carlo Chatrian is he was a former director of the Locarno Film Festivals, and he discovered Ryusuke Hamaguchi's and showing the Happy Hour in the main competition, which won the best actress prizes, and so 4 actresses won the prize. It was big news in Japan. So, and this is the beginning of the Ryusuke Hamaguchi's career in the film festivals. And now that he moved to the Berlin Film Festival last year, and an artistic director of the Berlin Film Festival now. So last year, as I told you before, in Berlin, last year Berlin Film Festival was held so in the very normal way. But this year, February is a very difficult time to do the film festivals, and I think that Berlin did a very unique style, so to split the festival in 2 times. So please tell me, so which kind of the decision was made for this idea?
Yes, it was a long story, because. As Christian said, 2020 was very unique year in the history. For us, working Film Festival was very much up and down. So at the end of the summer, I think everyone had expectations, because Venice took place, San Sebastian took place. But then from end of October, there was a second big wave, or third wave, whatever you want to call it. So it was clear at the end of November, I would say, that the festival, the way we usually do, but even in a reduced form, was not possible. And then we discussed different options. We, just to make a long story brief, short, we decided to split what usually is reunited. Berlin is well known for being a big film festival for public and professional. And the thing that I like of the festival when I attended as a film critic and then programmer is that you, in a theater, you have both audience together. And so the starting point for us was the decision not to go online. So we didn't want to offer an online version to the public. The second decision we took is that postponing the market to a later date, and it was not even clear when this date could have been, was also not good, because we got a lot of requests from sales company, from professional, from the entire market, that the Berlin as a market with a selection took place in the first quarter of the year. And the market are placed to promote one selection, but also to promote more generally the industry of cinema. So having the market taking place in the first quarter is also a chance to promote film that will hit other festivals, will be released during the year. So given this situation, we decided to have a festival in two steps. The first one took place online with the selections, with almost all the sections, but with a very reduced program. So the competition was not reduced that much. Usually we have 18, 20 movies, and we had 15, and the other section, competitive section encounters, was more or less the same, but the other section, Panorama, Generation, were cut more than a half. Usually we do show around 300 movies, and this year we had a little bit more than 100. We did, as we had the selection, as we have the competition, we want to have the jury. So this is something I'm really grateful, because it was not easy at all. We managed to bring the jury in Berlin. So we didn't want the jury to watch the film online. We want them to watch the film in a theater, without an audience, but in a theater. That technically was possible. It was not easy, but we managed. So we had the Golden Bear jury, so the jury of the main competition. We had the jury of encounters. We had the jury of the short films, which are the three main competition. They watched the film in a theater. They gave their verdict, which was announced at the end of the market, at the end of the first step. At the same time, we announced that the films will be shown publicly sometime later. We said in the summer, because summer was the moment where most likely could have taken place. And the thing that we said to the companies, or to the right orders since the beginning, was that after the online event, they were free to go to other places. So we didn't want them to hold their screening for the summer. The summer was, for us, since the beginning, a moment of hopefully celebration, but not a premiere moment. Then also Cannes, at the beginning, when I remember I discussed with Thierry, when we took the decision, it was December. They didn't know whether they would stay in May or in July. So there was also a lot of uncertainty. We ended up, after a very long period of uncertainty, because until end of April, I would say 20th of April, we were not sure to do anything, because the lockdown was very strict in Germany. Theater decided to stay closed until the end of June, so it was not possible to have a summer edition with theaters. So we decided, because the pandemic and the lockdown was eased and the pandemic went well, at the end of April, we decided to go with open air. So it was not only a very unique edition in summer. Berlin used to take place in summer at the beginning, but we had open air, which is great because it's less stressful for everyone. It was the first big event in town, but at the same time it means to do one screening a day, starting late. In Berlin, the light is until 10. Luckily enough, there is a long tradition of open air in the city, so we had 18 different venues in the city. So we ended up showing not all the films, but almost all of them, I would say 90%, in the summer in open air. It's a long answer, but was longer even the process of making in place.
So how was the audiences for the open screenings? Was it full, or how was it?
So this is maybe more technical. We didn't have, so we had the restriction of 1 or 50%, so, but no mask. In Berlin and in Germany, people are especially in open air, there is a tradition to bring beer. Sometimes they also bring pizza, and it's like a celebration. Open air took place in parks, so they are beautiful venue, but very big. So we had 50% of capacity. Each viewer had to get a test, no matter if they were vaccinated or not, because that's the rule we got in April. So, but the tests at the time in Berlin were for free, so this you could very easily get a test. So in the end, they were all full, but we didn't have. So we ended up with 65,000 admissions, which is for open air is it's not bad.
It's very good. Actually, so this year in Berlin, of course, maybe you know Hamaguchi's new film won the Silver Bear, so he was there, and also that there was a film called A Balance, directed by the Yujiro Harumoto. 日本語タイトルは優子の天秤ですが、this was selected in the panorama section, and yes, and actually I helped some way for his festival presentation, so that's why I know the details. But yes, this filmmaker Harumoto attended this June screenings in Berlin, so he was very excited, because his film was showing the big screen outside. So, which if it's a normal Berlin Film Festival, he couldn't experience such things. And maybe June in Berlin must be the much better weather than in February. So, how is it? Was it cold or not?
We were very lucky. It was the hottest week of the year, probably. Yes, because now it's winter almost. Well, but with open air, we were very lucky because also it didn't rain. Because with open air, we didn't have a plan B because the theaters were closed, so we couldn't go to any theater. So we had to cancel only 2 screenings because of a strong wind.
A strong wind.
So we managed to do an extra screening starting at 2 a.m. So it was very exceptional, and we were very, very lucky, to be honest.
Okay, so next up we have to ask Lorna T. So Lorna T she's a producer. So she started and has career in Malaysia, but then she moved to Hong Kong and producing many Asian films and some Chinese films and some of the film by the filmmakers from the Southeast Asia. And so and also not only working as a producer, she's involved in the many film festivals. Like she was once one of the selection committee members of Berlin Film Festivals, and also she was working for the Macau Film Festivals and from the beginning. So so probably so, and she's now based in the Amsterdam. So I think that Lorna, maybe your experience of the film festivals in the pandemic. So did you travel to some film festivals or?
Kumbawa. I wear both hats as a producer and also work alongside a lot of film festivals. With Macau, which was a relatively new festival, and it was always set up with the intention of bringing people together on top of screenings and everything. Because for Macau, it's a really small city, and in 2020, when the pandemic hit, one of the things was to look at an online festival, which I felt was not what the initial impetus for me to work in a festival like Macau. The inability to bring people into Macau was not viable for me, and therefore I did not continue doing the festival. And the festival continued with an online, but it was a very reduced impact, I would feel. But I think that, we all learned during the pandemic that what the film festival does, other than the screenings, is the ability to bring people together, which is so very important. And without that ability to be able to be in the same space and to share that energy and to share that passion and to have that discourse about cinema, really sort of like creates a shift into the mindset of also how from now onwards also film festival operates and what the function is of film festivals, other than showcasing the best of cinema. One of the, after Berlinale in 2020, I'm also on the board of a small festival in Amsterdam called Cinemasia Film Festival. And we literally just had 5 days of screenings before everything shut down in the Netherlands also. And we had guests from Indonesia, Taiwan, and everyone managed to just come in just before everything sort of like the world shut down. So it was a very interesting experience to sort of like, you know, wrap your head around everything. And nobody was wearing masks except for all the Asian guests. So all the Dutch audience did not wear masks. All the Asian guests were all masked up. And you see also then the cultural differences of how things are during a pandemic also. It's very interesting and very telling about how, you know, people react to the situation. And I think I've now attended Cannes this year, and then I went to Sarajevo and in Venice, and now very grateful to be here in Tokyo. You know, it still feels surreal to be here. Thank you, Tokyo Film Festival, for having us here. And I think festivals and people who work in festivals, we really want to be able to not just have the films, it's also the connection. And that's something that I think, you know, we all try to do here very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So, and so I'm sorry for keeping you wait, Jean-Michel. And so Mr. Jean-Michel Frodin is he's a yes, very famous film critic in France. And when I first met him, it was I think it was 1992 or 3, maybe 1992, maybe in Tokyo, because in 1990s the Tokyo Film Festival invited him and. As a journalist, and at that time he was a journalist of the Le Monde and French newspapers, and every time so he so he watched the film in Tokyo Film Festival and wrote articles so first impressive article is that he did an interview with Fumiki Watanabe. In 1992, so when his film The Zambo was shown in Tokyo, was it right? I think yes. And second time is and he watched The Cure by Kiyoshi Kurosawa and in Tokyo, and then so we read his report, and there almost nothing about the competition, but he just wrote a long interview by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, so which is probably I think which is the beginning of his career in Europe, because before that his film was not so well known, and after that this article was published that there was a film festival, the Festival d'Automne, and The Cure was shown in Paris, and it was packed by the full audiences. It just was what I heard. So so thanks to him that so many Japanese films are introduced in Europe in 1990s. So now I'm very happy. And later so I invited him as some guest for the Tokyo Film Ex, but I think for the Tokyo Film Festivals you didn't come long time. So.
No, all of what you've just said, Shozo-san, is perfectly correct.
Yes. Yeah. So so anyway, and of course he attended so many film festivals, and he's also the expert of how to attend the film festival as a journalist. And how do you think about the film festivals in the pandemics, and from the point of the journalists?
Yes, good evening first.
Yeah.
I am the only one here who is not in charge of a festival. I just try to attend as many as I can, because I really feel film festivals are important. They are important, of course, for me as a film critic to discover film and to review them, but they are important because they are keeping alive the life of cinema at large, in the world of cinema. And during these last 2 years, like many colleagues, it's been like day in, day out, here we can go, here we can't go, here it's happening this way. And what Lorna just said is very, very important. How important is how is vital is the presence, the possibility to be together, to discuss, to disagree, to share also drinks and opinions about whatever topics, not only cinema, because cinema is also ways to relate with the world we live in at large in a very fruitful and dynamic way. And I think we need that. And of course, we have here some major representative from major film festivals, but I think we should also keep in mind that there are thousands of small film festivals which are like networking the planet and keeping alive an alternative relation towards cinema to what the market used to do, and now more or less, even more, what the platforms intend to do with market-oriented platforms. And so I believe there is a strong meaning and strong necessity to pay attention to this huge network. Even sometimes, as we know, they compete, but even when they compete, ultimately they work together and they build something in common, knowing it or not. And this is what has been shown as even more important when it was fragile or jeopardized in a lot of cases. And we are lucky in France. We have like 350 local film festivals, and it was every day. This one is happening. This one is cancelled. This one is only online. So it was circulating all the time what would be possible at every specific moment, because more or less everywhere there was this changing situation. This we can do in January, and we can't do anymore in February, and then maybe we can try. And adapting to keep the pace going on, the best was made even more intense. So I really think that we should not only survive the COVID crisis, but take advantage of it, understand what we really care for, how important some ways of behaving. For instance, what Carlo did and what Berlinale did this year was probably, I would agree, the best answer possible in this condition. And me, as a film critic, I committed myself to attend the Berlinale as I would have attended it if I was able to go to Berlin, meaning I made my program as a festival goer every day, and I have a projector and a big screen in my place, so I attend the 4 films of the day as it is programmed by Carlo. The same I would have done in Berlin if I could have been there, like I used to go for 30 and something years now. And I think this is just an anecdotal example of the way that we are playing with the small elements which are at hand. Each of us, the professionals, the critics, the festival organizers, to keep the best or the most possible in this unstable situation, which is likely to become even, well, not likely to become worse, but it would be wrong to believe that it's over or it's only behind us. There are going to be other trouble, some kind. And in this situation, as it was, as it is, and as it will be, it is important to build the strong answers, because we didn't discover it, we knew that, but it was confirmed with intensity how important it is for the life of cinema that there are such devices as film festivals, and that the film festivals are part of a certain idea of cinema that needs to be fought for because it can be threatened, under threat in the coming world, not only because of pandemics, for many reasons, political reasons, economic reasons, technological reasons. And in this context, that film festivals are part, and might be even more than ever, part of a alternative way to the dominant strengths that organize this world, not necessarily for the best.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. So maybe let's yes, and so let's start to talk freely. So, do you have any comments which which is for about the festival under pandemic? So, yeah, well, please. Please.
It's working.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know comments because I think. But first, I didn't say thank you so much for inviting us for the topic of the festivals because film festivals are changing every year. We are always discussing, talking, meeting the audience, evaluating the numbers of films. This year, Cannes was extraordinary. Why? Just because there is less parties. And we are more. We were talking conversation where. Better quality, longer conversation. I think Cannes was fantastic because there is less people, and so each time we are thinking about how doing things a little bit different. And the online proposition, of course, it's great. But what we love in this festival is introducing the film, curating the film, doing the Q&A, and of course welcoming the filmmaker. When you are making a film, your dream is to play on a big screen. I'm not against the tablet, but the priority is for all of us to respect the screening venue and the theaters, which we are doing. So online is always a possibility, but we are. It's like now vinyls and CD, or when you listen to music, people are going back to vinyls. So now festivals are doing well because they are doing well because distribution is not doing well at all. It doesn't exist in many countries. So we festival in a way are the distributors, which we are not used to be. We are programmers, but we have also the responsibility to bring people, to do ticketing, to bring the press, and we are doing something we didn't do previously, and we have a huge responsibility. So the evolution is like every 6 months there is something new to discuss, to rediscuss. So my comments are changing all the time, but I don't change my position about watching a film in a theater.
I think watching in the theater is very important. Yes. We should.
And sharing a film with people you don't know. Which is also. So actually, Oh, do you have any? Please, Jean-Michel, please. Yes.
No, I was willing maybe to add two small things, also in reaction. More generally, the first one is about the state of cinema. Cinema, just before the pandemic, was basically doing good worldwide. It was expanding. There were more films being produced than ever. They were seen different ways under different platforms, but including in film theaters more than ever, more than in the recent decades. In so many places all over the world. It was creative. The number of countries attending international platforms of festivals or being distributed was increasing. So there was a positive trend, and we should not let us be only obsessed by the dark moment we have been through. We did. We went through it, and we are partly, but big part, still in. So it's not to dismissing this, but just remembering that cinema is not a agonizing body, and was not, and it's not. There is no real reason it would become. It is going through a crisis like the rest of the world, and why wouldn't it? Because the world is going through this crisis, COVID. But it was a dynamic body. It was something energetic, and it was doing well. And the other thing, different, on a different level, I wanted to add is about, because Frédéric, in his first talk, did something almost everybody does now, said platform Netflix. We can use other kind of platforms than Netflix. We should use other kind of platforms than Netflix.
It's the reason why there is an evolution. It's the reason why we are changing, and yes, of course.
Yes, and no, I'm just taking advantage of it because it comes naturally. Netflix, which I believe is not such a with such a great future as they pretend to be, but they have a huge promoting team and process to make believe they are unbeatable and they are the most important. But I believe that the platform is an important future for cinema, but not the Netflix model. There can be many kinds of platforms which can work with festivals. Festivals should create platforms. Some of them have, and use the online device as an ally, as a side opposite to what I see as an enemy of cinema and especially festivals like Netflix.
Please.
I'm less optimistic. I think we are living a very, it's a moment of change, and we don't know. And I think whenever there is a moment of change, you have different people or different interests that will move in one direction and another one. And I am totally transparent. I am in favor of cinema, as Lorna said. For me, the love for cinema really started with festivals. And festivals were a place to discover films, but also to share thoughts, emotion with other people. At the same time, I have to be objective. In France, cinema as this kind of event was in good shape, but not in Germany, not in Italy, and not in Spain, and the pandemic has been an accelerator for that. The other element that for me is not scary, but it's something that we have to think about, is that some festivals, like the European festival, are heavily supported by government, by public fund, which is a limit, but also in pandemic has been a big advantage. So we could do the 21 edition because the government, the German government, put all the money to cover our expenses. Usually, Berlin Film Festival sells 300,000 more, 300,000 tickets. This year we sold 0 tickets. So it was a huge loss, but the government support us. In the US, they don't have any chance that go online because they rely on tickets. And the private sponsor is going down a lot everywhere, and that's normal. So there is but when you are going online, when you are doing an offer online, you are doing a different festival. The marketing becomes so big, it really can overshadow even the content, because you are promoting, you are competing with other platforms when you are online. It's just the beginning, but if some festivals will stay online forever, they will compete with the platform online because they offer the same stuff. Maybe a more curatorial, and this is, for me, it's a big difference than a festival in presence. I am concerned because I think there is some advantages, of course, maybe it's more democratic, but also big disadvantages.
But I do think that, for example, with the pandemic, it's also brought us to look into where priorities of the agendas of festivals, to look into it more closely and to look into areas where, to be able to access more people, as you say, like, for example, the Sundance Film Festival or is now nationwide instead of just in Salt Lake City, and people can see films from Sundance all across America. The same thing, the Netherlands is small, but the International Film Festival of Rotterdam, because of the pandemic, then had the films all online and everyone could see it, and not just people in Rotterdam. So that created sort of like, an outreach to audiences that wouldn't necessarily be able to attend a film festival. And in some ways, for us in cinema, sometimes film festivals have become a little inaccessible for some people due to the cost of attending or due to other forms of inability to attend in person. So we also looking at how to balance, because I love being at a film festival, but not everybody can be at a film festival. So how do we find that balance is, I think, something very crucial to sort of like explore. The other thing is, of course, the environmental factor of going to a film festival. We love cinema, we love going to a festival, but it's extremely harmful in terms of the carbon footprint to be at a festival. So, and we're talking about climate, and I think we also have a responsibility. As producers, we're looking at green filmmaking, and as festivals, we're also looking at how to sort of like create greener sort of like initiatives. And I think Cannes had it this year, and all the other festivals are also really thinking about it. And I think it's really important to look at all the pertinent issues and not be in the bubble of, festival cinema alone, because we function organically together with society.
Yeah, sorry, just because on that I was really surprised on the, well, first that, of course, when you go online, you widen your outreach, but then you have very little control of which kind of outreach you have. So I was surprised Sundance unveiled that they count for each contact 2 viewers, and they count as a screening up to 15 minutes. So if I'm artistic director, I show a film to a theater, and after 15 minutes, I have less than the theater empty, I think that I failed my job. With online, I achieved my job. The carbon print is something that I don't have the figure, but we are discussing that internally in Berlin. Of course, flight is a huge problem, but having a strong connection create a lot of CO2, because you have the big server and you need to, so it's not that doing online is for sure no carbon print at all, because you need more energy. So I'm not saying that we are really in the middle of a change, and we have to take in consideration everything. And I am grown in a small village, so for me it was very complicated to go to theaters, to go to festival, but probably because it was complicated when I went there and I have to choose where, it was so joyful. If I have everything at my home, maybe yes, I watch a film 15 minutes, it doesn't work, and then I go to another one. I don't know.
Yes, I want to come back to one point about online. I think we have to talk a little bit about the local cinema in US, in America, and in every country you have a geographical restriction. And I think for the Americans, it's extremely important to see what's happened from Sundance, from South by Southwest, and from Tribeca online. Because so many people, they don't have any cinema, outdoor cinema disappear totally. And then it's great and it works a lot. And I'm not talking about fiction, but also documentaries, because you have access to people who are not cinephile, but they want to know, to learn about something, environmental films, music films. So it's not only the public of the festival as it was before. You have access to another population. And the second thing which is different, it's going back to Jean-Michel, because I know Jean-Michel, I know his place in Paris, next to Paris, but I don't know his basement, and he has a video projector. So it's not a detail. I don't have a video projector, and I'm working all day long on a computer, or a tablet, or TV. And sincerely, I don't want to see a film online. But if I have a basement with a good couch, maybe a good wine, and then it's like a discipline, and you go to your cinema. And I know people in the US living in the Hamptons or people living outside town. It's extraordinary. They have a cinema, and it's so respectful for the film, the sound and everything. And then I can understand how the online process is great. Otherwise, if at the end of the day I'm watching, we are watching film online, but adding one more online screening is sometimes too much, but not maybe in a.
I think also that's the whole point of this panel is what are the festival becoming. Yeah. And of course we have to use all the tools we have on hands, and online is part of the tools, and we have to think about that. But at the end also, the role of the festival is to highlight the movies and how we bring the people to the movie theaters. Of course, the situation is different everywhere, and France is quite lucky to have a lot of attendees and admissions. But I don't have the answer. The question is how you balance between the online festival, because festival at the end also is it's great that the people are traveling, we all meet, we have contacts. Of course, the basic idea of festival is to bring films to a local audience, but also to help the films to live in the city, meaning like going to the movie theaters. So online will help or won't help? Yeah. That's the whole question. And again, I don't have the answer, but that's something. A time of crisis is a time where we should question ourselves individually, of course, but collectively, and especially festivals have to question themselves what is their point, what is the meaning of having a festival nowadays, and what does it bring to the audience and to the profession, which are two different things, by the way.
Maybe just to elaborate on what have been said, because I basically agree with all of that. Is I think that we should stick with the idea that the center of the festival apparatus is the real presence in a real place with a real audience, and keep it as much. There were some circumstances where it was not possible, and it was either canceled or they're brought only online. But that it is the center, and then that the issue now is, as it was just said, as Christian was just saying about the articulation between this and potentialities online. But it is also which is a similar pattern in a different frame. I mean, it's local and global, but it also timely local between 1st and 10th of September and the rest of the year. And that the festival, because they are so meaningful, and it is already happening, Berlinale was pretty much in front of the road to have things related with the Berlinale the whole year long, but now many festivals are doing this, which is that the festival becomes like the capital, the center element of a network, which is both in different level of circulation of films and in different timings of the life of the films they are working with or supporting or highlighting or even helping to achieve themselves, reach their final shape. And this is in this general scope that festival need to be thought about, not only like 10 days in Cannes or 10 days in Miami, but as something which is at the center of both spatial and time circles or spheres, which are meant to expand, because festivals are really a way to concentrate some of the most important dimension of what cinema is, can be, should be, opposite to the way it is in real danger, to my view of dissolving itself in a kind of audiovisual market of which is losing some of these central resources. And this has to do with art of cinema, but I think it has also to do with democracy, with a control on the works, the discourses, the images we share, the stories we are being told, etc. And so I think there is this strategic stake in the festival pattern that is to be redesigned, as Carlo was saying, in the transition moment we are going through, but with these large dimensions both in space and in time.
So sorry, thank you very much for your all comments, and but we are now time is running out, so almost running out, and so we should move to the Q&A. But before moving to Q&A, I'd like to ask Rona to speak about the collective 50-50, because this is one of the things that we have to discuss it now, but probably there's no time of discussion. But and this year at Tokyo Film Festival signed the collective 50-50, so which is about the gender balance of the festival organization, and but not so many people knew it before, and actually Rona is a person who bring this idea to the Tokyo Film Festival. So so maybe we should ask her. So what is a collective 50-50?
Actually, I'm not involved in the collective. It's set up by the film industry in France, and I think it was 2018 that it was led by Kate Blanchett and Agnes Varda in Cannes to sort of like call out into bringing gender parity into the representation in film festivals and in many different levels, not just the films that are presented, but also maybe in terms of the issues facing gender representation. I really applaud Tokyo for being the first and the only film festival in Asia that has signed this collective so far. Because I do believe that it's very important to, if it feels like it's just signing something to say, yes, we will, but it is an awareness and building a sort of like awareness into what we need to do. It's not to say that, okay, we must have this many female filmmakers, or it is about being aware of the situation and being able to deal with how the gender inequality is happening and how we can try collectively as a film festival to address the issues. And of course, film festivals, is not the cause of the gender inequality. Film festivals show what is being presented to them. And so it's addressing a lot of many different areas, it's addressing, in essence, society itself. How many, female representation do we have in our parliaments, and our sort of like city councils, in many different areas. So of course we're talking about cinema here, but cinema represents societies, represent the people too, and therefore we must not disassociate that. And with this, I think I really think that the collective is something that is necessary for festivals to participate in, to get the data, so that with data you become more aware and become more understand how to confront the issues. But I'm not a believer in sort of like quota systems, or to have certain segmentation that is more patronizing than it is to serve its function. Ultimately, I think the issue with film festival representation is always about, the film itself, the filmmaking, and And I also believe that it's not just about gender representation. It's many different voices from different sort of like segments of society that may be more marginalized. We need more indigenous voices, for example. We need more voices from different levels, class of society. Filmmaking is a privilege. Filmmaking is usually represented by, you know, people who can afford to make films. Do we get, you know, films made by people who comes from a different strata of society? Those are areas also to look into, I think, for, you know, our purposes, to be able to enable cinema to be richer, to have voices from a bigger segment of where it could possibly come from. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, and yeah, I would like to also discuss about yes, and this topic, but not so much time left. So, if you, so I would like to ask the すみません、時間がですね、もう限られてますので、もし場内からですね、質問があれば
I would now like to open questions from the
どなた
floor,
かいらっしゃいますでしょうか。
from the press.
はい、じゃあまずこちらの方で、すみません、媒体名。
Okay, please let us know which media, which medium you're writing for. My name is Ito. I am from Yahoo. I would like to ask all of you, film festival and also review. So that is reviewing film in this situation. So what kind of a feedback are you been receiving from filmmakers? You mean filmmakers? Yes. What type of films are, in a way, can make it to film festivals selected? So filmmakers in such situation, how filmmakers are reacting? How are they behaving in the amidst the pandemic? So what kind of films or tendency do you find from the views or from the eyes of programmers? You mean?
So should I? Okay. これってあれで僕が訳さなきゃいけないの。でなくてなんか通訳ブースから。
Can you hear me? これフロアと押してる。
訳せないのか。じゃあ僕はこれ訳すしかないですね。Okay.
Do you hear me?
This is a question
No?
from the yes the writer and so she's asking that so in this COVID-19 pandemic that so which kind of films so it's maybe it's an opinion for the Frédéric and Christian or the Carlo and which kind of the films are made during this pandemic situation? So it's a ということですよね。選ぶ方から見てどんな映画が作られているのかと言います。
I suppose that's a question.
If you have any feeling that so in these 2 years, which kind of films are made for the festivals?
I can start, and then I think maybe we have a slightly different point of view. First of all, in our case, and we are watching film now for the next edition, I would say now maybe a little bit more than a half, but in the 21, a small percentage of film were made in pandemic time. So there is always a gap of 1 or 2 years in between, right? If you ask me about the classical pandemic movie, it's not about the topic, but it's about the production. So it's about very few characters in one or very reduced place. Then the topic can be different. We haven't received so many movies that deals with the pandemic. We watched some last year, we watched some this year, but by far less than I expected.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, when you're talking about the feature film, there is this gap. But actually, the short films, because it's of course quicker and more time-related, We have seen many short films with not dealing especially with the pandemic, but showing the pandemic. So many short films with mask, and but we don't see in feature so far.
Yeah, but I think it's a very interesting point because we are watching film in post-production. We're watching a lot of films. In short, I totally agree. But in the fiction, they were smart because they didn't use the mask. Maybe few films, just because if you put the mask, they avoid the mask, it's immediately dated because in 5 years we know it's a film from 2020. And the idea is it's like the pandemic didn't exist in a way. And not for the short, but for the film, we don't see a lot of people wearing masks or talking about COVID.
Yes, and
which
for
is
me,
really bizarre because normally cinema
yes.
is a representation of our society, but not on this case.
Yeah, and for me, I agree with you all. And actually, this year I was asked by several media that so how many films have made deal with the pandemics? And actually, I watched some films, but in this festival, very few. Maybe only 1 or 2 films, and which yes, and but this year we have the Amazon Prime take on. Well, it's a kind of a short film competition. But in the short film, I watched many films which are about the pandemic, which are using the settings of the pandemics.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting for historian of cinema in a couple of years, not because the masks are just the illustration of the pandemic, but how this crisis will affect the creation in its themes, and I think it will be more pervasive, and I think it's more the job of an historian later to define what has happened.
Yes.
But as a producer, I think looking at the landscape, and I work a lot with young filmmakers, within the region in Asia, we are trying to co-produce a lot together, and it's becoming really, it was interesting development, and there's a lot of interest to work together closer as a region. But I think the pandemic has really brought it a lot more, make it a lot more complicated. For example, I have a Japanese-Filipino film that I would like to, I have been planning for many years to, and we were hoping to be able to shoot, end of last year, and now we still can't shoot. And because also the inability to access into Japan, for us, our Filipino director is not able to come in here, or a Japanese actor to go to the Philippines. So in terms of the stories, films that would need to be set in different countries, but with many different nationalities would be affected.
Yeah, actually, some of my projects are postponed, so because of this reason. Yes. ということで大丈夫ですかね。はい。大丈夫ですか。
ありがとうございました。
じゃあ先にちょっと何もう時間があれですかね。はい。
We may be running out of time. Okay.
ありがとうございます。フリーランスのライターの大塚と申します。今日すごい大変面白い発言コメントされてて勉強になりました。で、ちょっと2つほどあるんですけど、1つ目はやはり先ほどリアルとオンラインの同時開催ということをどうだっていう提案をされてたと思うんですけど、フィルムフェスティバルについて、インターナショナルフェスティバルについて。で、ただちょっと前からそれについて自分自身も考えた時に思ったのが、並列化してしまって価値ってどういうふうに変えることができるのかなと。もしこのままオンラインが開催になると、例えば、テレビ局の話しても仕方ないですけど、地方局が今オンラインでどんどん番組作れたら、もう一種の全国放送、地方局で作った番組がネット配信によってオンラインによって全国放送みたいな形になるわけですよね。だからそれ映画祭でオンラインの映画祭を上映やることによって、なんか別になんかオンラインであることによってその差別化が独自性が失われていくんじゃないかなっていうのが一つ思いましたけども、そこら辺はどういうふうに考えてらっしゃるのかなと思いますが、どなたでもいいんですが。
Can you hear the English? really. ちょっとすみません、今ね、多分ね、英語の通訳が多分こちらにほとんど聞こえてないという状態なんですけど、僕もちょっと日本語の。
Can you now hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, it's much better. Yes.
Okay. So because now when things go online, it's as if local TV station they actually have been making film for the local region, but once they upload it, you can actually access this local TV program from anywhere in the world or throughout the country. Then, what really is the point? Once film festival is taking place online, how can you differentiate, or how could you maintain uniqueness for each film festival? What is it becoming? I mean, what really is the raison d'être of sort of regional uniqueness?
I think this is a good question. If a festival like Cannes or Berlin goes worldwide, then it's a big disruption for the entire festival system, because as Jean-Michel has said, there is festivals. You have the big one, so-called the A1, but then you have a lot of others, smaller, that provide a kind of alternative distribution. So if a festival goes online worldwide, then it will disrupt that part. Of course, there are right orders that are against that, and they will prohibit that. I don't know if I answered the question, but that's at least the way I see the issue. So I don't think there is a risk, but yes, theoretically wise, yes.
But maybe one element of answer, because it's a complex issue, is very important and needs to be underlined in this situation, is programming. The identity of a festival is its programming. It's also its local facilities, and the fact that you have maybe seashore, or you are in the mountains, or you are in the middle of a huge city like in Tokyo. But the most what defines the most film festival is programming, and to a certain extent, even if there is an extension of the accessibility to the festival, because I believe that not the answer, there is no such thing as the answer, but a option is somewhere between only local and getting like a completely global, but is defining circles where what the festival does has a local imprint and a larger imprint with different tools, but remaining true to itself, to its identity. Of course, Cannes, Berlin, and Venice, and maybe Toronto, and hopefully Tokyo are playing with the same rules or the same definition of what they are trying to do with the top of the international film festival, international cinema production. But many festivals are building more specific relation towards cinema, and it is important both that they do that and that they connect together. And those who are making only documentary are friendly cousins with those who deal only with sci-fi cinema or this kind of thing, because they all belong to the world of cinema. And if this can be kept, there is no so much of this danger. The danger is when the pattern becomes the same everywhere, and everybody wants to do the same thing and is competing according to the same ideology of cinema, which is basically what is the market promoting, the dominant format of supposedly desired films. Film festival is more like a publisher who has a publishing line and is building his proposal to a defined potential audience and building the audience from this proposal. And in those times, I believe programming, curating, we have been using the word curating, it's the same thing, is more important than ever. And this is what is likely to define the identity of different festivals, which together is making alive another relation towards cinema.
Yes, I just want to open the comment. We don't have much time, because I think I really appreciate your question. But if we dissolve the festival, which are all very unique, Tribeca, Berlin, Cannes, Tokyo, we are specific and unique. But if you dissolve it worldwide online, it's going to be extremely difficult to be represented in the way the critics review the film. We are talking about Lorna yesterday about the problem of the critics and how films are not reviewed enough, especially the small film. But if you open it to the world, it's going to be more and more difficult to get critics. We are very lucky in Tribeca because we had a program of film only online, and it was not too many films, and all the films were reviewed and well, because maybe it's New York, it's maybe a tradition, but I'm not sure if you open, and it was in the US, but if you open it to the world, the festival, I'm not sure you're going to get reviews. It's difficult because it's going to be worst.
はい、すみません、もう時間がどうもなくなってきているようなので、また質問のある方いらっしゃいましたら申し訳ありませんが、以上で、
So there are some still questions, but we need to wrap here.
We must close the sessions because the time is running out. And それではちょっと写真撮影の時間をいただきますので、
Now time for photo shoot.
Photo call. So please just stand up.
Not yet. We are preparing.
大丈夫ですか、このままで。
皆様、では真ん中の方、撮影される方は後ろの方にご移動ください。で、他の記者の皆様は横の方にご移動ください。椅子の撤去すいません、お願いいたします。Please wait here. Sorry.
Yeah, I think they have to.
Okay, could you stand up there, please? Let's start. Smile, please. Say. 何かお声掛けいただければ目線いただけると思います。次の方いかがですか？どなたがお声掛け大丈夫ですか？ Smile, please. 大丈夫ですか？はい、では OK です。フォトコール終了で大丈夫です。